Toddler accused of being transphobic or homophobic was suspended from nursery. So the age of the kid was, what, 2 to 4 years old?
I think we're allowed to laugh at this one, right?
Well, it was...
Maybe not.
I think you're allowed to laugh at basically anything.
Yes. There were more than 13 of these kids between the ages of nursery and second grade.
I think we are witnessing a shift that cannot exist. I would describe it as, what are those things called? Do you ever see...
Tamagotchis?
No, there's a river, and there will be lakes that are shaped like crescents next to the river.
Yeah, Moonbow Lake, Oxbow Lakes.
Oxbow Lakes. This guy, he knows what it's all about, right? Not so learned over here. But so how are those formed? Over time, the river, the water flow, there's more friction on one side than the other, causing the water to erode faster, creating a curve. The river then starts snaking. But eventually, the erosion will break through, and the river will reconnect with itself, creating an Oxbow Lake, I believe you called it. Mm-hmm. That's how I view leftism right now. What they're doing to young men will not survive for a variety of reasons. The left is not having children. They are attacking young men and masculinity. Young men are going to they're going to want to look for masculine role models.
This is what's happening.
Exactly. Now, for a lot of them, it's Andrew Tate. It doesn't need to be Andrew Tate, but he's a guy who says you can be strong, rich, and successful like me. And there's a lot of guys who just wish they had the power to look into a camera and say, go F yourself, I got F you money. So that's attractive to young men. The left doesn't offer anything. Harry Sisson? Come on. You think kids want to look like that guy? Sorry. And he's a young man, I know, but what? What do they got? Who's that guy who's really short? Robert Reich?
There should be a way to offer masculinity outside of the mold of politics or outside of the mold of, hating women and using them like trash.
We had it and they destroyed him. And it's Jordan Peterson. He was a really, I think, noble version of that, of teaching young boys how to.
I thought he was, yeah.
And they destroyed him. And totally predictable. Well, I mean, I'm not sure they fully destroyed him, but by trying to destroy him, they push these kids to people like Andrew Tate, who, in my opinion, is deplorable.
But I do think that Jordan, Dr. Peterson, only goes so far. He had that famous tweet that went viral where he said, there are cathedrals everywhere for those with eyes to see, and it was an Evian water bottle. Look, Dr. Peterson has has tremendous insights, and for a lot of young men, when he said, clean your room, find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it, people were like, this is great. And then he was easily mocked. He cries too much. He wears a weird suit.
The suits are weird.
I'm not here to criticize the guy.
I'd still rather have Jordan Peterson than Andrew Tate.
Of course, but what do you think a young man sees? He sees the goofy guy being made fun of with a good message, and then he sees Andrew Tate, who's a world champion kickboxer who's worth 50 plus million or however much $1 million. He's got a bunch of sports cars, and he talks about how he can have any woman he wants and he'll do whatever he says.
There's a lot of really great examples of masculinity, though, in our popular culture right now. Matt Walsh is great, and he has a lot of respect for his wife. They have a whole bunch of kids.
That's still very political.
But once again, is political at this point.
Once again, there are still areas where the left gets in there. Look, the left cannot get Andrew Tate. Matt Walsh, he gets made fun of for a variety of things. He made fun of The Little Mermaid. They said, look at this grown man watching children's shows.
Well, he has like 100 kids.
But it doesn't matter. A young man who's 14, 15 goes online and they see bearded Matt Walsh with a good message, and they see him easily being mocked by the left. Haha, he's watching children's cartoons. Look what he does for a living. He watches kids' cartoons and then makes fun of them. That's stupid.
Well,
Jordan Peterson, they say, look at his goofy tweets. Andrew Tate, they say, he's abusing women. He's trafficking them. And it just makes him seem like dark and strong.
Well, and gross and horrible.
Doesn't matter. Look, the young guy doesn't want to be mocked and ridiculed. He's looking at Jordan Peterson, who's got a better message. He's looking at Matt Walsh with substantially better message, in my opinion, than both. He's a dad. He's got kids, and he's strong, and he's tough. Then Matt posts a picture of him holding a baby goat, which is totally fine and normal. But a young man looking for a ridiculous superhero-esque, and I'm not saying Andrew Tate is a superhero. I'm saying they're looking for that ridiculously fake, dehydrated, ripped muscle kind of guy. Andrew Tate is the closest thing they're going to get to a guy who can't be mocked. Well, he can be insulted, but he's not made fun of. They try to make fun of him, but it never works. Instead, you just have a guy who posts videos where he's walking with beautiful women in sunglasses and he laughs. And he does this on purpose. He knows what he's doing. Andrew Tate gets in that car. The reporter, you see this video? The reporter asks him a question and he goes, who are you with? You're a nobody. And then peels out. A young
Trump
guy
does that too.
Exactly. And this is what the left can't get past. So my point is this. What I was trying to get to in the beginning of the segment is that young women want men. Young men want women. The media and the left can try and say whatever they want, but there's a biological reality that drove humanity and all of life for billions of years. That's why I call it the, Oxbow Lake?
Yeah.
It forms as the society veers left, but eventually the friction causes it to break off and become this weird thing on the left that's just there forever or just there. But the river carries on. Young women are going to want young men who are tough. They don't want male feminists. The male feminists will become increasingly unappealing. There's substantially less male feminists. Young men, Gen Z men are skewing to the right. So this means that for the liberal woman, which is 70% of millennials, when they go into the dating pool, it's going to be inverted. Most of the guys are going to be on the right and they're going to say, I ain't dating you. You're crazy. You're going to Me Too me. I'm out. And they're going to keep, and we've already seen these stories. They're going to have bad luck. The younger women are going to go, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to be some old dried up hag. And they're going to go for the bad boys. And these bad boys are watching, unfortunately, Andrew Tate.
Well, we've hollowed out culture. So we have, deprived our young men of role models that they used to be able to have in literature and in like good films and things like this. And I think that there's this void and it's being replaced by, someone as horrible as Andrew Tate, which is really a shame. But I think that it behooves the right not to celebrate people who suck and instead to provide worthwhile ideas like think for yourself, critical thinking, read good books, read classics, look at classic films, listen to good music instead of trash. All of this stuff, like we need to teach our young men and women this so that when they're aspiring to be someone, they're not looking at like, the disgusting millionaire guy who like bangs body modified chicks and traffics them or whatever else he's doing, and look inside themselves and look to things that are of value.
When young men were given the choice to be ridiculed, mocked, and belittled, or be a powerful demon.
Well, you don't have, those shouldn't be all I'm saying is these should not be the only options.
Of course, but this is what the left has created.
Like these weren't your options.
This is my point.
You guys are all like strong men, and these are not your options.
It's actually a bit worse than and maybe this is implicit in what you're both saying. They didn't just destroy Jordan, they destroyed all men. They destroyed masculinity. And so it's been a long erosion where, we hear all this crap about toxic masculinity. We've heard it for a long time. And I actually think we are in the rebound from that, where actually girls are going, you know what, actually, I want real men.
How did you guys come up? Because you guys didn't end up susceptible to all this nonsense. Like,
well, perhaps we're the generation before it.
Well, okay, so a part of it is also like there's like 20, 30, 40 years of your entertainment and culture degrading men as well. So I posted something recently about this very, very low budget show called Blue Ridge, where this dad, now he's divorced, but he wants to remarry the woman that he lost because he was in the service, he was in the military, he was in special forces, and he was just away from his family. But he has a daughter. The daughter loves and respects him. There's even a scene, and I'm pointing this out because like there's a scene where a boy wants to take his teenage daughter out on a date, and he gives him the cold stare and makes the boy explain why he's right to take his daughter out on a date. And I said, as simplistic as that story is, it's rare now. And there aren't examples. Now, that's not a show that I really think that any kids are going to watch. But the point is, you grow up with stuff like that, right? You may have a family member who watches something like that. And there aren't a lot of great examples in popular culture of really, really good male role models that are not treated as buffoons. Homer Simpson syndrome, right? Where all the dads are buffoons and stupid, as opposed to being competent male role models who actually take care of their family.
When I was growing up, I had my dad, of course, who was a no-nonsense guy. And let me just say, maybe as an older man, he's calmed down a little bit. But he was probably one of those guys who got into bar fights often for fun. And so growing up with a dad who was very tough and strong and didn't take anything from anybody, that obviously rubs off on me to a certain degree. But also growing up, I know it may seem silly, but we had superheroes. And my favorite hero was always Batman. You know why Batman's the best superhero ever? Granted, they've made bad iterations of him. At least in the 90s show, he's a regular human. Granted, he's rich, but whatever. And he inherited it. Ugh. But Batman when you look into the comics and you read about what his powers really are, they call it peak human performance, peak human. Batman as a superhero was the best a human could be, developing the best technology and being as strong as he possibly could with a strong moral code. And so I was a fan. It was great content. Superman was okay, but I didn't much care for heroes who just had powers. I liked regular people who were better.
I loved the Michael Keaton Batman.
It's good stuff. Yeah. I like the X-Men and Spider-Man and all that stuff, but Batman was always like, you can just train. What I absolutely love this scene in Justice League where they're interrogating a supervillain and Superman's threatening him. The guy's laughing at him. And then Batman shows up and they're like, Bruce, we can't get him to talk or whatever. They use their first names in Justice League, right? And he goes, let me handle it. He walks to the guy and he leans in and whispers, and the guy goes, I'll say anything. And what I loved about that was Batman is just a guy, but he could do things no other superhero could do. He trained himself to be the best. He built the best technology, and he put himself above all of the other superheroes. It's a great character. It's a great inspiration because it was just someone writing a story, to be honest. But the story was that, and this is widely believed in comic book lore, Batman can defeat literally any, as it goes, Batman will defeat any supervillain or hero given enough preparation. End of story. That's what makes him so special.
Like the one where his list of all the ways to defeat the Justice League leaks.
Right. Yeah. It was a great arc. Yeah. And what they did a crossover with Marvel and DC, and Batman defeated the Incredible Hulk. How did he do it? He threw nerve gas and then struck Hulk's solar plexus, causing him to inhale, and then the Hulk passes out.
See, that's great.
Batman's the best.
That's good stuff.
It is. Yeah. And then they ruin and bastardize it with all the weird woke garbage. But my point is, I'm not a big fan of kids looking up to fictional characters, but some fictional characters are still good. What they need is good role models, and you were pointing this out when you said they destroyed Jordan Peterson.
Well, I don't watch these kinds of films necessarily. I'm not against them, but these are archetypal storytelling and archetypal heroes, and this is very much Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, and this is what we actually need for kids. I think is in the stories, and we destroyed that. In movies, we went away from that at our peril, and I think that going back to those great stories, Libby, you said it earlier, reading great books. It's not just the act of the book; it's because the example in those stories, these archetypal things, there's a reason why these biblical stories still resonate with us.
That's where the ultimate archetypal stories are.
I blame conservatives.
There is that one specific story I can think of.
Jesus Christ, and it's a spectacular tale.
I blame conservatives. So, not completely, obviously. I'm somewhat being antagonistic on purpose, but
I blame boomers. But we'll come back to that.
No, boomers made the next generation. Captain Picard was a great role model. Talk about that scene when Data asked Captain Picard, if terrorism is so deplorable, why has it been so successful throughout history? And Picard says these are questions that man has struggled with for eons. And he says, I don't subscribe to the belief that political power is derived from the barrel of a gun. Awesome role model. But my point is this.
I'm back on a TNG rewatch, actually.
So good, always. The first Avenger, Captain America, it was a $140 to $216 million budget. You combine that with marketing, and its box office was $370 million. I'd imagine, Brett, that implies it actually lost money, doesn't it?
Probably. I mean, it has to make 2 to 3 times its budget to profit.
That's right. Now, what was this movie about? It was a scrawny young man with a myriad of ailments who kept trying to enlist to join the war front to be combat in World War II to ship out, and they kept rejecting him because he was scrawny, frail, flat-footed, sickly, asthmatic. But his character was so good, and he persevered that they had a project, the Super Soldier Project, and one of the doctors saw in him nobility and honor.
Yeah, he jumped on the grenade.
He jumped literally in the movie. Mm-hmm. Tommy Lee says, we don't need scrawny, we need strong. And he pulls the grenade and throws it. And it's a dummy. And then all the guys jump away and he jumps on it. And what that was saying was that you might be weak. You might not have the strength. You might be sick. But a noble spirit embiggens the smallest man. What's so funny over there? And so that movie was tremendously conservative values. He's a 1930s guy. He wants to date the girl. He's very pure and very clean. He wants to serve his country. And we didn't get conservatives cheering the film on. It was just kind of, sure, fine, whatever. So what ends up happening is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. This is the kind of movie you want to promote to your kids and say, you can be a hero too. Just be of good spirit and be of honor and truth and justice. Then they made Captain Marvel.
Is that the girl one?
It's the girl one where she gets the powers by accident. She doesn't deserve them. She just gets them. And then she immediately becomes a snooty, evil woman who steals a guy's clothes because he told her to smile. She has to defeat the man who keeps telling her to control her emotions. That movie did $1 billion. Why? Because movies like Captain America before it were so good.
No, it made $1 billion because Endgame wasn't out yet. Because the next one did.
For sure.
Yes. Okay.
But the point was the movies were so good, people wanted to see Endgame. So when they announced they were doing this movie, people went and saw it. And then they got the inverse message. Haha, girl power sells and Captain America doesn't. When in fact it's
actually proven not to be true because they haven't even advertised any of the women from the Marvels for the upcoming Doomsday. So
thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel and we will see you all there.